Hi everyone, my name's Kalthoff and welcome to a Stamping to Share video. Today I'm going to share with you a technique called inset die cutting. And what it is you just cut a couple of die cuts. You use the negative space from one color and of course the cutout from the other color, and you just piece them back together. And then it really gets fun if you put it on colored paper. So that's what I've done here. And you can see just what a darling card this is. I'm going to go through this card step by step along with all the measurements so that you can recreate this yourself. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to need is some paper. This is Bermuda Bay. I've cut it at 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and then I've gone ahead and scored it at 5 1/2. So I'm just going to fold this along the score line. And then the next piece of paper we're going to need is for our inside panel, and then we'll need the same size for our outside panel. We're going to be using 2 pieces of Whisper White, both of them cut at 4 by 5 1/4 inches. Now for the inside panel, I will show you. I went ahead and I stamped this, but I just used some gorgeous grunge. The card that I'm using uses a couple of different stamp sets. One of those is gorgeous grunge. Honestly, I could not live without gorgeous grunge. I hope it's never discontinued, so you have to promise me that you'll buy it, because Stampin' Up! Does not discontinue stamp sets that people are buying. And I love this stamp set. The other, so what I did is I just stamped this up in some different gorgeous grunge stamps, and you'll see how I did this when I get to the other part. But for now, I just wanted to get this inside my card. So I'm going to take some snail, run that along the top of my panel for the inside, and we'll just place this in here and then set this aside. The next panel we're going to work on is the front panel, which of course also is Whisper White. It's 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And let me get some scratch paper so that we can start stamping. Here's our scratch paper and we're ready to go. The ink colors that I'm using today are Hello Honey, and then I am going to use Tangerine Tango, and the other color that we are going to use is Tuxedo Black, one of our Memento inks. Before I actually stamp on this, I need to get a couple other things ready. I also need a piece of Whisper White paper that's cut at 2 1/4 by 4 1/4, and then I need to cut out my die from this. So I need to use the Hello You dies, and we're going to use actually the Happy, which I have that set up in another piece of paper for later on. So I'm just going to grab one piece that's already done for you. And here it is, and what I'm using is the negative space. So I'm just going to tack this onto my card. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of snail, and we're just going to secure that onto our card like so. I just don't want it slipping around while I'm stamping. And now what we're going to do is, using one of the gorgeous grunge stamps, we're just going to start randomly stamping some Hello Honey all over. So we want to get this pretty full, because we want this to be very bright and colorful, and I think that looks great. Now we're going to take this this more splotchy one, and using Tangerine Tango, we're going to go ahead and stamp that randomly as well throughout our project. And you can see how that is coming together beautifully. And I think that looks about right. So we'll stop with that. And then the final bit of dots that we're using from Gorgeous Grunge are these real small ones. We're going to ink up our basic black, or our Tuxedo Black, and we're just going to stamp that right across, kind of kitty corner through our card. And so this is complete. I know it's kind of a mess right now, but you'll see how it all comes together in just a minute. So the next piece of paper that we're going to need is a piece of basic black, 2 5/8 inch by 4 5/8 inch. because that is going to be our very outside border of our sentiment that we are highlighting on our card. And it's also where I'm going to cut out my words happy from, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've used the Big Shot machine, and I went ahead and I just used the word happy from the Hello You Thinlits, and I cut it out, and I'm going to be keeping this negative space because it's going to be my border along the back part of my Bermuda Bay piece. So I'm just going to set that aside, but I'm actually going to use this cutout, and I used a little wax paper on it, so it actually comes out of here fairly easily. And we're just going to pull out this happy, and there it is, all beautiful. Okay, so we're ready to continue on with the next portion of our card. Let me bring this back into the picture here, and we're going to remove this. I barely tacked it on. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start layering up some of those pieces that I had just cut. So I have the happy here. Now you could use this on another project, but I'm just using it as my mat sheet. So I'm going to put some snail on here. Not too much because we don't need a lot. Then we're going to take our 2 7/16 by 4 7/16 inch piece of Bermuda Bay, and we're just going to center that in on the black panel. This gives us a nice 3/16 of an inch for our mat. And then we're going to take the happy, and we're going to add a little more snail to the back here. And we're going to put this right in our Bermuda Bay. And again, this will allow a 3/16 inch of a background. And now we can go ahead and we can add our happy. So to do that, we're going to take our silicone mat. I've got a little bit of our dryer sheet stuck on the back here, so let me just pull that off. Or it could be wax paper. I can't even remember now what I used. I think it was dryer sheet. So here we go. We're just going to take our snail, and we'll just add a little snail to the back here so that will stick onto our card. So here we go. Now we can just thread this in just like so. Isn't it beautiful? It fits in there just perfectly. You just piece it in there. I like to keep a little toothbrush on hand to get some of those excess strings out from our die cutting. There, doesn't that look gorgeous? All right, that black just really pops and makes it look so good. So now we can bring our regular card back into the picture, and I have a 3/16 inch strip of paper. So I am going to add just a little bit of glue to the back of that strip, and we are going to glue that onto the front panel of our card. So I have the glue here, and we're just going to glue this about right like so. And then we can go ahead and add some dimensionals to the back of this. And with our dimensionals on, now we'll just go ahead and set it into our front panel. Right like that. Now I'm noticing there's not a lot of orange up here, so I think before I get this totally down, I'm just going to grab my stamp and add just a little bit of orange up here at the top. All right, now we're going to trim off these little excess edges. Got my scissors here, so we'll just trim these little edges off. And then we can add it to the front of our card. But before I do that, I want to add my birthday. So what I did is I used the stamp set that is called And Many More, because happy works with so many of these. You can say happy, happiness always, happy, happy healing, happy at last, happy, happy birthday, happy just because. There's lots of different things that you can use. So we're going to use happy, happy birthday. And what I did is I just stamped it on a piece of scrap paper, and then I used a die from our gift card envelopes, and I just cut that happy birthday out. Then I'm going to attach it to my card with some dimensionals. We'll just raise that up a little bit. We'll put that right down here. And then we'll trim it even with the back of that panel. And now it's ready for our card. So I'm just going to adhere this to the card with some snail. And we'll set this right in here. And we have a completed card. So let me take all this out of the way. And here is the card we just completed. Here is the card I had done earlier. And thank you so much for stopping by today. I truly appreciate you. Be sure to visit my blog if you'd like more ideas and more video tutorials. I'm at www.stampingtoshare.com. Have a great day. I truly appreciate you. Bye-bye.